Meat City, baby.
Hello and welcome back to Meat City Gaming. JD here with a recap of my recent experience playing in the Diablo IV closed beta. And I should have closed in air quotes. It's kind of an open beta, but in order to participate, you either had to pre-order the game or get a code from some other means like the KFC food purchase or something like that. So I played a couple of hours, a significant chunk of time this weekend in the open beta. I got my character up to level 22 out of the max 25, and I played a Barbarian pretty much exclusively for the event. And I just wanted to give a quick review of some of the good and bad from that game. There's an open beta, a true open beta to everybody that's also coming up very soon, and then the game is releasing in June. So hopefully with these impressions, it will encourage you to jump into the open beta so you can experience it for yourself, but give you a little bit of a read on the game and what to expect in anticipation of it arriving in June. First things first, the experience that I had with the game was really good. I liked the game. It's going in the right direction. Big picture, it looks fun, right? I was a little bit concerned after the Diablo Immortal stuff that happened that there was a chance that they could just drop the ball and I wouldn't like the game and I wouldn't be interested. That was not the case after my experience with the beta. Everything feels like this is going to be a good, solid, quality game. Now, is it going to be one that I play? Yes. Is it going to be one that I try to get the 1,000 gamer score for? Probably, depending on how ridiculous the achievements are, but that'll be my initial goal. Is it going to be one that I continue to play season after season forever after it comes out and put hundreds of hours into? That I'm not able to tell based on this limited amount of experience. But it definitely clears the first hurdle. I think it clears the second. And then the third, we'll have to wait and see, probably when the actual full game comes out. So what feels good about the game? Well, first, the combat feels pretty good. And again, I'm comparing this mostly to Diablo 2. That's where most of my experience is. I did play Diablo 3, but it was way back in the day, and I don't have a whole lot of memory about it. I didn't really enjoy that game as much, so this will mostly be based on my Diablo 2 experience. And based on that, yeah, the combat feels dynamic, right? Diablo 2 is a 20-year-old game, and this is brand new. It's dynamic in the fact that you can control the battlefield. You are able to see the big hit from the boss coming. You can use a dodge to get out of the way. You can move enemies. You can knock them back. You can stun them. You can knock them down. There's a whole lot of control and agency that you have in the battle compared to Diablo 2, where you just power up your super skill and then you spam it and things just kind of die in front of you. And there's a couple of things sometimes you have to avoid, but for the most part, you're just moving around and either you kind of get out of the way of big trouble or not, and then you just spam and you rain death on your enemies. This was definitely not that. It was much more tactical and punchy and meaty. And again, it felt like you had that level of agency. Talking about the story, completely spoiler-free, I will just say that it felt good. I was interested in it. I wanted to see what happened next. I wanted to see the outcome. And again, only saw the first little bit of it. I didn't go deep into it. And of course, I'm not going to talk about any of the details here, but it felt good. It felt fitting for the world. It felt fitting for Diablo. And I wanted to see what came next. So I thought that was a win. Similarly, the world feels appropriate. It feels like you're in the world of Sanctuary. It feels like Diablo 2 took place in this same world. It has the right atmosphere. It has the right characters. It has the right weight and darkness and grittiness, right? It has those intangible things that make it seem connected to the world of Diablo, of Sanctuary. So I thought that was great. From a technical standpoint, there were some early connection issues, which I mostly missed because that was on Friday and I didn't play much until Saturday. And when I did at first try to log in late Friday, there was a huge queue time, and that was because of some early connection issues. Completely understandable for a beta like this. And they had it cleaned up by Saturday. I was able to log in with very, very little queue. I think it was like a 2-minute queue time, and that held for the rest of the weekend. There was almost no queue or no queue all after they got that initial rush fixed. And then after that, in terms of stability, there were a couple of small hiccups and things that were, I would say, rough edges. And I did have, I think, 2 hard crashes. One where I was in a loading screen and the loading screen hung up, and one where I was actually fighting a boss and the game froze and I had to reset, quit out and come back into the game. So again, I don't have any downside on that. That's the point of the beta. and that was pretty minor. I thought that was great, and hopefully they have that cleaned up by the time the real game comes out. I have every confidence that they will. So stability-wise, from me, for a beta, it seems great. So things that I didn't love about the beta. These are the concerns that I had. And again, overall, I was happy with the game. So I am picking the nits a little bit here, but some of them do rise to the level of a little bit of concern, right? Things that could keep me from really pouring a lot of time into this game if they stay the same, if they carry throughout the full experience, and they aren't kind of limited to the early game like we saw here in the portion of the game, the Act 1 portion of the game that was available in this beta test. So the first thing is, it felt like there was a little bit too much MMO in my ARPG. And maybe it's a little bit too much of that stuff specifically in a Diablo game, right? There's a lot of systems. There is crafting and resource collection and all this other stuff that goes along with the combat and the story and everything else. And part of me is wondering, why am I collecting resources? Why am I picking flowers? Why am I collecting iron ore ingots in a Diablo game, right? That felt wrong. It felt perfunctory, like it was added on so that they could check a box and they could say, hey, we've got a crafting system, right? If I want to upgrade my potion belt, or if you want me to upgrade my potion belt in a Diablo game, have me go slay demons. Have like, these are the 5 demons. Each of them has the component that will upgrade your belt, and they're in random dungeons throughout the game, and when you find them, you'll get the upgrade, right? That would be fine. The fact that you have to get to a certain level and then also collect these certain components, whether they're flowers or minerals or resources, it just didn't quite feel right. Diablo game, I want to slay demons, I want to fight monsters. Make that everything, right? Make that, if you want crafting, that's fine, but make the crafting based on killing monsters, not picking flowers. The next one, and this might be the biggest concern that I have, and it's one that I'm almost certain is not going to change, which is disappointing. It's the scaling difficulty of the monsters and of the world. And what I mean by that is, as you level up, the game and the areas of the game that you go into level up with you. And it feels so bad. As good as the combat feels from a weightiness and an agency and a manipulating the field, this kind of takes almost all of that away because there's no progression and there's no power gain. And literally during a dungeon, I leveled up and the monsters leveled up with me in the instant that I leveled up. Instead of me gaining power, instead of me being, oh yeah, I leveled up, I got a new skill, now it'll be a little bit easier to engage these monsters and I'll get a leg up on them. No, whatever you are at the time, the world will match. And I know why they're doing that. I just don't agree with it. That's not the kind of game I want to play. I want a challenge to be set for me, and then I can either overcome it because it's supposed to be beyond where I am. It's a little bit past my level, and then I know I'm taking on something that I'm not supposed to yet, and if I can defeat it, then I have a great sense of accomplishment because I did something that I wasn't supposed to do yet. Or if I get my butt kicked and it's just too hard, and then I go and get myself some power, I go do that training, I go get those skills, and then I come back and now I'm bigger and badder, and now I can defeat you, that feels good too. And you can't do either of those in this system. If you get stronger, if you went in at level 10 and come back at level 15, the whole dungeon is at level 15 too. So you didn't gain anything. You're not going to be more powerful than the dungeon now. It's just going to match you, and it's always going to feel the same. And that means everything's going to feel the same. So I get that they may not have wanted to push people down a certain path in a certain order, but there would have been better ways to do that. Make the rewards worth it. If you want me to go to this dungeon first, put something there as the reward that's good for the early game. You want my first potion belt upgrade, put it in that dungeon you want me to go to, and I'll go there first, right? Instead of go wherever you want and it's fine and everything's the same, and it felt a little mush. It felt a little blah. And again, over the course of 100 hours, if it feels that way the whole way through, that's gonna suck. But maybe it won't. Maybe as you get to the end game, there'll be things that kind of change out, or there'll be Paragon levels, and this is just for the early game. Don't know that yet, so I don't want to give it a definitive downside, but just for now, what I experienced, I did not love that, and that stuck out probably the most. And the final point, it tacks onto that a little bit. There were definitely some boss fights in the game that felt almost impossible unless you had a very specific build. I don't know if that was only because I was playing the Barbarian and maybe other classes didn't have it, but the Barbarian is an upfront, in-your-face attacker. And you do have, like I said earlier, you do have some agency. You have a dodge, you have some crowd control, you have some barriers, some things like that, but they're all limited. You can only dodge once every, whatever the cooldown is, 10 or 12 seconds. It's not often. And the same with your shields, and the same with your stuns. And some of the bosses are immune to that stuff. So you could have this boss, the Den Mother is the one that I'm thinking of most prevalently, where it was in your face, right? It was attacking and slashing, and you couldn't avoid it. It was faster than you, right? So you could dodge out of the way of one of its big attacks. It had this telegraphed attack. It reared back, and you're like, oh, okay, he's gonna do his like slash thing. So you could dodge that. It would do its slash, and then you could jump in and start damaging it. But if you get 2 hits in, then it's gonna start doing its regular attacks, and its regular attacks were demolishing me compared to mine, and its defense was barely taking any damage. So my first build, which got me through everything else I was trying to do with challenge and with intelligence and with thought, and this didn't matter. I was just getting absolutely smacked, didn't get the boss past its first phase change at 75%, and I had to burn through all my potions, and it was absolutely not even close. And I had to completely wipe my build and go with this very like defense oriented. I had to give myself an extra like fortify that also healed me, and then I literally had to just run circles around the arena and hit that thing on cooldown until I was topped up, and then go in and get 1 hit or 2 hits, and then run away again, and then kite around the ring trying to avoid damage, and then put it on again, and then get 1 or 2 hits in. It was a 15-20 minute fight, tedious. It was gross. And that, again, maybe that was only a Barbarian thing. Maybe that's just a tuning thing, and the number on this this boss was off, and they'll fix it. Great. But again, that ties to the earlier point. If I could have leveled up and come back stronger and then defeated the boss, that would have felt fine. But that's not an option, because as I leveled up, it would have leveled up, and I saw people having trouble with this at level 10 and at level 20. So it didn't seem to be tied to anything all that relevant. And the skill part, right, that I said earlier, you have this agency, but even that wasn't enough because of the cooldowns, because of how limited those options are. They're good when you're fighting a pack or when you have a quick fight. You can dodge the big hit, jump in, swing, 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 put up your shield, recover, reset, and go a couple more times. But if it's a long, drag, knockdown fight, you just don't have the resources available to get through it, and you don't have the options available to increase your power to overpower the event. So that, merged with the scaling difficulty, is a big concern for me. You shouldn't have to completely redo your build. I get that you shouldn't be able to just have any nonsense build. You shouldn't go in with all white items. You shouldn't go in with like your points scattered all over, but I didn't have that. I had decent items for my level. I was taking care of everything. I was, having success in my combat. I understood the mechanics of my character, and it was not enough until I went and did this very specific build and then played this very tedious style of gameplay to overcome the boss. So again, that would get old very fast. If it's a one-off, fine. If it's every 5th or 10th fight, yeah, that is going to be a really big turnoff really quick. So I had a little bit of a downer there, but I don't want that to be the overall tone or takeaway from the video. Again, everything largely from the good. Felt good. I'm excited about it. I'm definitely going to jump into the open beta, which will have the other 2 classes available. So I played the Barbarian first. I'm probably thinking about the Necromancer. So I'm going to jump in with that on the open beta. We'll see if that goes any better. We'll see if they kind of smooth out any of those edges or make any changes to the things that we talked about. But either way, definitely on the right path. Excited for Diablo 4 and looking forward to its release, hopefully, as they've announced so far, in June later on this year. So let me know in the comments if you played the beta this weekend. Did you have any of the same issues? Do you have any of the same thoughts? Are there other things you're concerned about? Are you looking forward to the open beta? Is Diablo 4 not your thing? Let me know and I will respond in the comments. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.